She never thought a single sentence would cost her everything. Charlotte Whitmore, wealthy, privileged, protected, made one careless remark at a museum gala. "I'd never kiss a black man." But fate has a cruel sense of irony when Darius Cole, the classic car mechanic who overheard every word, becomes the one man she can't stop thinking about. What begins as a humiliating apology spirals into forbidden attraction as society whispers, family questions, and a scandalous video threatens to destroy his reputation and her heart. Will Charlotte's thoughtless words become her greatest regret, or the catalyst for the most authentic love she's ever known? If you're watching from somewhere love still conquers prejudice, subscribe now and tell me where you're from in the comments below. Charlotte Whitmore smoothed her silk dress and took another sip of champagne. The museum gala sparkled around her, crystal glasses catching light, string quartet music floating above the chatter. Her father's vintage roadster gleamed under special lights in the center of the room, drawing admiring glances. "So," Marina nudged her elbow with a teasing smile. "When are you going to start dating again? It's been months since you and Theo split." Charlotte rolled her eyes. "Not tonight, please." "Come on," pressed another friend, Alicia. "There are plenty of eligible men here." Charlotte scanned the room. Bankers, lawyers, doctors, all from her parents' world. The same faces at every event. She felt a sudden wave of frustration. "I'm just tired of the same old options," she said, her voice sharper than intended. Marina raised an eyebrow. "Maybe you need to expand your horizons?" "What do you mean by that?" Charlotte asked. "You know, date outside your usual type. Try something new." Charlotte laughed, the champagne making her words come too easily. "Like what? I'd never kiss a black man." The words hung in the air. Marina's smile vanished. Alicia's eyes widened. Charlotte's cheeks burned. She hadn't meant to say that, hadn't even known she was thinking it. She forced a brittle laugh. "I just mean, I have a type, that's all." Marina's expression hardened. "That's not what you said." The event coordinator appeared at Charlotte's shoulder, saving her from having to respond. "Miss Whitmore, the mechanic for your father's car just arrived." Charlotte turned, grateful for the interruption, and froze. A tall man stood in the doorway, signing a vendor pass. His dark skin contrasted with a crisp white button-down shirt, sleeves rolled up to reveal strong forearms. His expression was calm, professional. But his eyes, they met hers with quiet intensity. He had heard. Charlotte's throat went dry. "This is Darius Cole," the coordinator said. "He'll be handling the roadster demonstration tonight." "Thank you," Charlotte managed. She extended her hand, trying to recover her poise. "I'm Charlotte Whitmore." Darius's handshake was firm but brief. "Miss Whitmore." "Please, call me Charlotte." He nodded once. "The roadster is this way?" "Yes, I'll show you." Charlotte led him through the crowded room, painfully aware of every step. Marina caught her arm as they passed. "Fix this," she whispered urgently. "Privately." Charlotte nodded and continued toward the display area where her father's prized 1960s roadster waited. The cherry-red paint gleamed under the special lighting. "My father's very particular about who touches this car," Charlotte said, trying to fill the awkward silence. "I understand." Darius's voice was deep, measured. "I specialize in classics." "Have you worked on this model before?" "3 times. Solid engineering, beautiful design." He walked around the car, his eyes professional, assessing. Charlotte watched him, unsure what to say next. The weight of her careless words hung between them. "I need to prepare for the demonstration," Darius said. "Mr. Whitmore requested the engine be started at 8:15. Charlotte nodded. "Of course, I'll let you work." She took a few steps away, then paused. She couldn't leave it like this. She took a deep breath and turned back. "Darius, could we speak somewhere quiet, after you're done here?" He looked up, his expression unreadable. After a moment, he nodded once. Charlotte moved to a quiet alcove and tried to gather her thoughts. How could she apologize for something so awful? What must he think of her? At 8:15 exactly, her father appeared with the event coordinator. A small crowd gathered around the roadster. Grant Whitmore, tall and distinguished with silver hair, addressed the group. "This 1965 beauty has been in our family for 3 generations," he said proudly. "Tonight, we'll hear her engine, recently restored to pristine condition." He nodded to Darius, who sat in the driver's seat. Darius turned the key. Nothing happened. Grant frowned. The crowd murmured. Darius tried again. The engine made a whining sound but wouldn't catch. Charlotte's stomach clenched. Her father hated public failures, but Darius remained calm. He popped the hood and leaned in, his movements precise and confident. After a minute of adjustments, he returned to the driver's seat. This time, when he turned the key, the engine roared to life, settling into a perfect purr. Applause broke out. Grant's shoulders relaxed, and he gave Darius an appreciative nod. "Perfect timing," Grant said quietly to Darius. "What was the issue?" "Loose ground wire and slightly off timing," Darius explained. "Both fixed now." "Good man." Charlotte watched as her father shook Darius's hand with genuine respect. For a moment, she saw Darius differently, not just as the man who had overheard her terrible comment, but as someone skilled and capable, earning her father's difficult-to-win approval. When the crowd dispersed, Charlotte approached Darius again. "May we speak somewhere quiet?" He wiped his hands on a clean rag and nodded. "Lead the way." She led him to a service corridor outside the gallery. Away from the music and chatter, the silence felt heavy. "I owe you an apology," Charlotte said, meeting his eyes directly. "What I said earlier was thoughtless and wrong. I'm truly sorry you heard it." Darius studied her face. "Are you sorry I heard it, or sorry you said it?" The question caught her off guard with its directness. "Both," she admitted after a moment. "I don't actually think that way. I was frustrated and trying to be, I don't know, shocking or something. It was stupid." "It was," he agreed simply. Charlotte felt herself flush again. "I know one apology doesn't fix it, but I want you to know I'm genuinely sorry." Darius was quiet for a moment. "I accept your apology, but I should be clear about something." "Yes?" "I won't be part of anyone's personal growth moment or publicity stunt. I'm here to do a job, not to help you feel better about yourself." Charlotte felt the sting of his words, but recognized their fairness. "I understand. That's not what this is about." Before Darius could respond, the event coordinator appeared. "There you are. Mr. Whitmore is asking for Darius. He wants to arrange a road test after the gala." Darius nodded. "I'll be right there." He turned back to Charlotte. "Excuse me." She watched him walk away, his back straight, his steps measured. The knot in her stomach remained. She had made a mess of things, and a simple apology wasn't enough to clean it up. Charlotte returned to the gala, but her mind stayed on the conversation in the hallway. She found Marina by the bar. "Did you talk to him?" Marina asked. "I tried to apologize. He was civil." "Civil is better than you deserved," Marina said bluntly. "What were you thinking?" "I wasn't. That's the problem." Charlotte sighed. "He thinks I'm trying to make myself feel better or something." "Aren't you?" "No." Charlotte protested, then paused. "Maybe partly, but I really do feel awful." Marina squeezed her arm. "Then show it with actions, not just words." Charlotte nodded, but before she could respond, a familiar voice cut in. "Charlotte, darling, You look stunning tonight. She turned to see Theo Armitage approaching, champagne in hand, his smile as practiced as ever. Tall, blonde, and impeccably dressed, he looked like he'd stepped out of a menswear catalog. Theo, she said coolly. I didn't know you'd be here. Last-minute invitation. His eyes moved past her to where Darius was speaking with her father. I see you're exploring new social circles, charity romance? Marina stepped between them. Excuse us, Theo. We were just leaving. She pulled Charlotte away, but not before Charlotte saw Darius returning equipment to the event staff. From his slightly stiffened posture, she could tell he had overheard Theo's comment. Her father approached as they moved toward the exit. Charlotte, I need you to coordinate with Darius about the weekend car expo. The Roadster needs preparation, and I want you to handle the details directly. Me? Why not your assistant? Because it's time you took more interest in the family collection, Grant said firmly. The expo is important. Many potential donors for the museum will be there. Darius will be working on the car tomorrow and Saturday morning before the expo. I've already given him your number. Charlotte nodded, suddenly aware that over the next 2 days, she would be seeing much more of Darius. The thought made her pulse quicken. On the ride home, Charlotte's phone buzzed. A message from her friend Alicia. Is this you? It's going around a small chat. Charlotte opened the link to find a short video clip. Her stomach dropped as she heard her own voice. I'd never kiss a black man. The clip ended there, cutting off before her awkward laugh. It showed just enough of her face to be identifiable. Charlotte felt sick. She quickly typed, Where did this come from? Someone at the gala, I guess. It's only in a small group chat so far. Marina texted next. Delete where you can, and tell him before it grows. Charlotte leaned back against the seat, her mind racing. Marina was right. Darius needed to know about this. If the video spread, it could affect him too. Back in her apartment, Charlotte set her alarm for 6:30 a.m. She'd go to Darius's garage first thing. Better to face this directly than hide and hope it disappeared. She placed her phone face down on her nightstand and exhaled into the darkness. One thoughtless comment had created a mess that was already growing beyond her control. Tomorrow, she would have to face the consequences head-on. At 7:15 the next morning, Charlotte pulled up outside Cole Classic Cars. The garage doors were already rolled up, and the smell of coffee drifted out. Darius stood at a workbench, reviewing papers. He looked up as she approached, surprise briefly crossing his face. You're early. I need to talk to you, Charlotte said. It's important. Darius gestured to a small table with 2 chairs. Coffee? Please. He poured her a cup from a thermos and sat across from her. In the morning light, Charlotte noticed details she'd missed the night before. The precise neatness of his workspace, the quiet confidence in his movements. I wanted to apologize again, she began, and to tell you something else. She took a deep breath. Someone recorded what I said last night. It's being shared in a small group chat. Darius's expression didn't change, but she saw his shoulders tense slightly. Right now, it's just among a few friends, but I wanted you to know directly, before it spreads further. I appreciate that, he said after a moment. What are you planning to do about it? I've asked people to delete it where they can. But once something's online, she trailed off, knowing they both understood the implications. Darius nodded. So, we have a practical question now. How do we handle the next few days? Your father wants me to prepare the Roadster for the expo. Charlotte was surprised by his matter-of-fact approach. I'd like to proceed as planned, if you're comfortable with that. I'm here to learn about the preparation and help where I can. All right. Darius handed her a work order. This is what needs to be done. We'll test drive it this afternoon to make sure everything's running smoothly. I can drive it? That's the idea. You'll be driving in the parade at the expo, won't you? Charlotte hadn't realized this was part of her father's plan, but she nodded. Apparently so. They reviewed the schedule together, keeping the conversation professional. Charlotte noticed how clients greeted Darius when they dropped off or picked up cars, with genuine respect and easy familiarity. He clearly had a solid reputation. At 4Y that afternoon, they took the Roadster for its test drive. Charlotte slid behind the wheel, nervous about driving the valuable car. Relax your grip, Darius instructed. Feel the car respond to you. Charlotte tried to follow his guidance, fumbling with the clutch at first. Ease into it, he said. Find the sweet spot. After a few jerky starts, she began to get the feel of it. The powerful engine rumbled beneath them as they cruised down a quiet boulevard. That's better, Darius said as she smoothly shifted gears. You're getting it. Charlotte smiled, pleased by the small victory and his approval. For a moment, they shared an easy laugh as she navigated a turn with new confidence. The moment was broken by her phone pinging with a message. At a stop sign, she glanced down to see a text from Marina. Clip has jumped to wider friend group, Theo commented with smirking emoji. Charlotte's hands tightened on the wheel. She drove them back to the garage in silence. Once parked, she showed Darius her phone. It's spreading faster than I thought. He read the message, his face unreadable. Show me the clip. Charlotte pulled up the video and handed him the phone. Watching his face as he heard her voice say those words was painful. This could hit you if people connect us, she said quietly. I'm so sorry. Darius handed back the phone, his expression serious. Let me be clear about something. I set my own boundaries. I decide what affects me and how. Charlotte nodded, chastened. Of course. We have a job to finish, he said. Let's focus on that first. As they pulled into the garage at dusk, Charlotte felt the weight of the day, the early morning confession, the careful work on the car, the growing spread of the clip, and now the quiet tension between them. I want to make this right, she said as they parked. Would it help if I signed something? A confidentiality agreement to protect your business? Darius looked surprised, then shook his head. I don't need that. Trust me to set my boundaries. Okay, Charlotte said, feeling oddly reassured by his refusal. He wasn't looking for leverage or protection. He simply wanted respect. Tomorrow, 9 a.m., he said as she gathered her things. We'll finish the preparation. Charlotte nodded. I'll be here. She left as he flipped the closed sign. Through the window, she saw him linger by the Roadster, his hand resting lightly on its polished hood. Something about the image stayed with her as she drove home. His gentle care for something beautiful and valuable, his attention to detail, his quiet pride in his work. It was only when she was home that she realized her attitude toward him had shifted. She was no longer just seeking forgiveness for a careless remark. She was beginning to see Darius Cole as someone she wanted to know better. The thought made her both hopeful and uneasy. What right did she have to want anything from him after what she'd said? And what would her world, her parents, her friends, even Theo, make of such interest? Charlotte pushed these questions aside as she prepared for bed. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. For now, she would focus on showing up, being honest, and hopefully making things right. The next morning, Charlotte was surprised to see her father's car parked outside Darius's garage when she arrived. It was only 8:30, half an hour before her scheduled time. She hesitated before entering. Inside, Grant Whitmore stood beside the Roadster, a box of pastries open on the workbench. Darius was leaning under the hood, pointing to something in the engine. "Good morning," Charlotte said, announcing her presence. Both men looked up. Grant nodded. "Charlotte, you're early." "So are you, Dad." She glanced between them. "Is everything okay with the car?" "Just a small fuel delivery quirk," Darius explained. "Nothing serious." Grant picked up a croissant and took a bite. Darius was explaining how he fixed the timing issue last night. Impressive work. Charlotte hadn't often heard her father compliment people's technical skills. He was notoriously hard to impress. "I was telling your father I could tune his other classic before the summer rally," Darius said, wiping his hands on a rag. "The carburetor might need adjustment." "Excellent idea," Grant said. "We'll set that up." He checked his watch. "I should head to the office. Charlotte, handle the final preparations for tomorrow." "Yes, Dad." Grant shook Darius's hand firmly. "Thank you for the explanation. Very educational." After her father left, Charlotte turned to Darius. "I've never seen him bring pastries to a mechanic before." A small smile tugged at Darius's lips. First time for everything. Charlotte noticed how his eyes crinkled slightly at the corners when he smiled. She found herself wanting to see it again. "I heard my father say he's bringing the other car to you. That's a big deal. He usually only trusts his regular mechanic in the suburbs." "I know Alan," Darius said. "Good guy. Taught me a few things when I was starting out." Charlotte picked up a pastry. "So what's on the agenda today?" "Final checks, then another test drive. You need more practice with the clutch." They worked side by side through the morning, Charlotte, handing tools when asked and learning the basic systems of the car. Darius was a patient teacher, explaining each step clearly. "Why did you become a mechanic?" she asked as he adjusted something under the hood. "My grandfather rebuilt engines in his garage. I spent every weekend with him from age 8 to 16. When he passed, he left me his tools." Darius's voice softened with the memory. "What about you? What do you do besides attend galas?" Charlotte felt her cheeks warm. "I help run my family's foundation, art preservation mainly. Important work." "Is it? Sometimes it feels like I'm just planning fancy parties to get rich people to donate money." Darius closed the hood. "Art tells our stories. Preserving it matters." He wiped his hands. "Ready for that drive?" Charlotte nodded, appreciating that he hadn't dismissed her work as trivial. They took the roadster out on the same route as yesterday, but this time Charlotte felt more confident behind the wheel, until a delivery van swerved into their lane. Charlotte gasped, her hands tightening on the wheel. "What do I—" "Ease off the gas. Don't brake hard," Darius said calmly. His hand covered hers on the gear shift, steady and warm. "Now shift down, that's it." Charlotte followed his instructions, her heart pounding. The roadster slowed smoothly, avoiding the need for sudden braking as the van cut back into its lane. "Good recovery," Darius said. They pulled over at a waterfront spot, Charlotte's hands still trembling slightly on the wheel. "That was scary," she admitted. Darius handed her a napkin to wipe the sweat from her forehead. "But you handled it. The car responds to confidence." She laughed shakily. "Is that a life metaphor?" He smiled, that small, genuine smile that reached his eyes. "Maybe." For a moment, they sat in comfortable silence, watching the water. Charlotte felt an ease with him that surprised her, especially given how they'd met. "Thank you," she said suddenly. "For what?" "For giving me a chance to show I'm not actually the person who said that awful thing." Darius looked at her thoughtfully. "We all say things we regret sometimes. It's what we do after that matters." They drove back to the garage, the air between them lighter than before. As they pulled into the parking spot, Charlotte spotted a familiar figure on the sidewalk. Theo. "Great," she muttered. Darius followed her gaze. "Problem?" "My ex. I should see what he wants." Darius nodded, taking the keys. "I'll finish up here." Charlotte crossed to where Theo waited, his designer sunglasses hiding his eyes. "Twice in 2 days," she said coolly. "What a coincidence." Theo's smile was practiced. "I was in the neighborhood. Thought I'd see how your little project is going." "It's not a project, Theo. It's my father's car being prepared for the expo." "And the mechanic? What is he?" Charlotte felt her temper rise. "His name is Darius, and he's a respected professional." "I'm sure he is." Theo's voice dropped. "But you should be careful. People like him enjoy the spotlight, especially with someone from your family." "What are you implying?" "Just that your little video clip is making rounds. He might see opportunity there." Charlotte stepped back, disgusted. "You don't know him at all. And you do, after 2 days?" "I know enough." She turned to leave. "I have work to do." "Charlotte." Theo's voice hardened. "Think about what you're doing. Your family has a reputation." "Goodbye, Theo." She walked back to the garage, unsettled but certain she had defended the right person. From across the street she noticed Darius watching. He had seen the confrontation but said nothing as she returned. "Everything okay?" he asked simply. "Fine. Theo's just being Theo." Darius nodded, accepting her answer without pressing. They finished the day's preparations in companionable focus, the car now fully ready for tomorrow's expo. As Charlotte prepared to leave, she felt reluctant to end their time together. "So, tomorrow at the expo," she said. "What time should I be there?" 7 a.m. for final checks before the crowds arrive at 9. "I'll be there." She hesitated. "Thank you for today, for everything." His eyes met hers. "You're welcome, Charlotte." The way he said her name sent a small shiver through her. She left with that feeling buzzing under her skin. That evening after dinner, Charlotte sat on the porch swing at her family's townhouse. The spring air was cool but pleasant. Her mother, Evelyn, joined her with 2 cups of tea. "Your father was impressed with the mechanic," Evelyn said, handing Charlotte a cup. "Said he really knows his craft." "Darius," Charlotte corrected. "His name is Darius Cole." Evelyn studied her daughter's face. "You like him?" It wasn't a question. Charlotte looked down at her tea. "He's different from the people I usually meet." "Different how?" "Real. No pretense. He says what he means." Evelyn sipped her tea thoughtfully. "That can be refreshing. And complicated." "What do you mean?" "Just that different worlds sometimes collide in unexpected ways. Be careful with his feelings. And yours." Charlotte was about to respond when her phone rang. Marina's name flashed on the screen. "Hey," Charlotte answered. "That clip is now in the private alumni group," Marina said without preamble. Someone added context that the mechanic at the gala was black. People are starting to connect dots. Charlotte's stomach dropped. "How bad is it?" "Not terrible yet, but moving. Some snarky comments." Theo liked the post. After hanging up, Charlotte explained the situation to her mother. Evelyn sighed. "Oh, Charlotte." "I know. I messed up." Charlotte rubbed her temples. "I need to tell Darius before he sees it elsewhere." She sent him a text. "Can we talk first thing? I want you to hear something from me before you see it." His reply came quickly. 7 a.m. The next morning, Charlotte arrived at the garage right at 7. Darius was already setting out tools for their day. "The clip is spreading faster," she said, after explaining the latest development. Someone mentioned you specifically as the mechanic who was there. Darius absorbed this information, his face serious. I appreciate you telling me first. I'm so sorry this keeps growing. It's like watching a slow-motion car crash. These things usually burn out in a few days, he said pragmatically. Best approach is to keep a low profile. Charlotte nodded. So we just go about our business? Focus on the expo today, no social posting, nothing to feed the story. Agreed. Charlotte hesitated. Darius, thank you for handling this so calmly. He looked at her directly. This isn't my first experience with other people's prejudice. You learn to choose your battles. His words hit her hard, a reminder of the privilege in her surprise at his composure. Ready to load up? He asked, changing the subject. They carefully secured the roadster on a specialized trailer for transport to the expo. As they finished, Darius paused. Dinner tonight? On my patio. Just takeout, nothing fancy? Charlotte's heart skipped. Yes, I'd like that. The expo was bustling with classic car enthusiasts. Charlotte stayed close to Darius as they positioned the roadster in its designated spot. Throughout the morning, she noticed her father checking in, nodding approval at the car's presentation. Around noon, Charlotte brought sandwiches for them both. They sat on a bench slightly away from the crowds to eat. How did you get into classic cars specifically? She asked. Started with my grandfather's 1957 Chevy. After he died, I restored it piece by piece while putting myself through technical college. He unwrapped his sandwich. What about you? Any interests outside the foundation? Charlotte thought for a moment. I paint. Watercolors mostly? Not very well, but it calms me. I'd like to see your work sometime. Really? Why so surprised? Charlotte shrugged. Most guys I know aren't interested in my hobbies unless they're trying to impress me. I'm not most guys. His eyes held hers steadily. And I'm not trying to impress you. Something in his direct gaze made her believe him completely. The afternoon passed quickly with the expo activities. When they finally closed up at 6, both were tired but satisfied with the day's success. See you at 8? Darius confirmed. Charlotte nodded. Text me your address. At home, she showered and changed into casual clothes, jeans and a simple blouse. She caught herself spending extra time on her appearance and smiled at her reflection. This felt like a date, even though neither of them had called it that. Darius's home was a surprise, a converted warehouse space with high ceilings and large windows. The small patio he had mentioned was on the roof, string lights creating a warm glow against the evening sky. A table was set with takeout containers and 2 beers. This is beautiful, Charlotte said, taking in the view of the city. It's peaceful up here. Darius opened the containers, releasing the aroma of Thai food. Hope you like spicy. Love it. They ate and talked, the conversation flowing easily. Charlotte found herself telling him about growing up with the pressure of the Whitmore name, the expectations that came with it. Sometimes I feel like I'm just playing a role, she admitted. The perfect daughter at galas and fundraisers. And who are you when you're not playing that role? The question caught her off guard. I'm not sure anyone's ever asked me that before. Maybe it's time to figure it out, he suggested. What about you? She asked. Do you ever feel like you're playing a role? Darius was quiet for a moment. Every day. As a Black business owner in a high-end field, I'm always navigating people's expectations. Some clients see the color of my skin before they see my skills. That must be exhausting. It can be, but I've built a reputation that speaks for itself now. Charlotte felt a wave of shame, knowing her careless words had been exactly the kind of prejudice he fought against daily. I really am sorry. she said softly, "for what I said that night." "I know." His eyes were kind. "I believe you." The tension between them shifted into something else, something warm and electric. Charlotte found herself looking at his lips, wondering how they would feel against hers. As if reading her thoughts, Darius leaned closer. "May I?" She nodded, her heart racing. His kiss was gentle, questioning. Charlotte responded, her hand rising to his cheek. The kiss deepened, became certain. When they finally pulled apart, both were a little breathless. "I wasn't expecting that," Charlotte whispered. "Neither was I." Darius's hand covered hers on the table. "But I'm glad it happened." "Me too." They agreed to keep things between them for now. No public declarations, no social media, nothing to feed the gossip that was already circulating. "Just us," Darius said, "getting to know each other properly." When Charlotte left that night, her lips still tingling from their goodbye kiss, she felt a lightness she hadn't experienced in years. The next day brought that feeling crashing down. Charlotte was meeting Darius at the garage to return some tools they'd used at the expo. As she pulled up, she spotted him talking with a customer outside. They were laughing about something, Darius's rare full smile on display. Charlotte's phone buzzed with a message from Marina. "Check your email now." She opened her inbox to find a link from Marina. Clicking it, Charlotte's stomach dropped. A gossip account had posted a photo of her and Darius laughing together outside the garage yesterday, with a snide caption. "Millionaire Heiress does charity work?" Worse, in the comments, someone had anonymously posted the video clip of her saying she'd never kiss a black man, now viewed thousands of times. The comments were vicious, calling Charlotte a hypocrite and Darius an opportunist. As she looked up from her phone in horror, Darius was approaching her car. From his expression, she knew he'd seen it too. "Darius, His phone rang. He answered, his face growing serious as he listened. After a brief conversation, he looked at Charlotte. "That was a client canceling their restoration. Said they heard things about my business practices." "Oh God, I'm so sorry." "I need some space," he said, his voice controlled but distant. "This is affecting my livelihood now." "Please, let me help." "Not now, Charlotte." He stepped back. "I need to protect my business. I'll text you later." He turned and walked back into the garage, leaving Charlotte sitting in her car, her vision blurred with tears. Her phone dinged with a message from Darius. "I need space to protect my business. I'm sorry." Charlotte's hands trembled as she read it. She had done this. Her thoughtless words had created a mess that was now threatening everything Darius had built. And just when they had found something real between them, it was slipping away. She drove home in a daze, her heart heavy with the consequences of that one terrible sentence spoken at the gala. The distance in Darius's eyes haunted her. She had to fix this. But how? Charlotte skipped a foundation luncheon that afternoon, something she'd never done before. She couldn't face the knowing looks, the whispered comments. Instead, she sat in her apartment, staring at her phone, drafting and deleting message after message to Darius. Nothing felt right. No words could undo the damage that was spreading like wildfire. A knock at her door startled her. She opened it to find Marina standing there with a paper bag. "Soup and sourdough," Marina said, holding up the bag. "And some blunt truth, if you're ready for it." Charlotte managed a weak smile. "Come in." They sat at her kitchen counter while Marina unpacked the food. "I'm guessing you've seen everything?" "Yeah." Charlotte's voice was hollow. "It's awful. A client already canceled on Darius." "And how are you?" "That doesn't matter. I caused this mess." Marina pushed a bowl of soup toward her. "Eat, then we'll talk." Charlotte took a few spoonfuls, the warm broth soothing her tight throat. He asked for space. Understandable. His business is on the line. Marina broke the bread into pieces. So, what are you going to do? I don't know. Apologize to everyone? Make a public statement? Marina shook her head firmly. No. That makes it a bigger spectacle, more attention on both of you. Then what? Fix this with him, not with the crowd. Marina's eyes were kind, but direct. What do you want, Charlotte, beyond making the bad press go away? The question made Charlotte pause. What did she want? The answer came with surprising clarity. I want him, she said softly. Not the image or the story, just him. Marina nodded. Then tell him that, when he's ready to listen. How will I know when that is? Give him the day. Then, reach out once, simply. Ball in his court after that. After Marina left, Charlotte tried to focus on work emails, but her mind kept returning to Darius. His calm confidence, his gentle hands on the car, his unexpected smile. The way he had kissed her on the rooftop patio, like something precious was happening. She checked her phone obsessively, but no message came. She respected his request for space, even though every hour without contact felt like an eternity. Meanwhile, across town, Darius was facing his own challenges. A wealthy client had come to the garage, looking over a nearly completed restoration. I've been reading some interesting things about you online, the man said casually. Darius kept his expression neutral. My work speaks for itself. It does. Beautiful craftsmanship. The man ran his hand along the polished fender. I could mention that in some interviews. Good exposure for your business. Darius understood the implication. My rates are fixed, Mr. Lawrence. I don't offer discounts for exposure. Not even with all this attention you're getting? The man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Could help change the narrative. I appreciate your concern, Darius said evenly, but my work and my prices remain the same. The man shrugged. Your call. He left without scheduling the final payment. Darius exhaled slowly after the door closed. That was potentially thousands in lost revenue. But the alternative, becoming someone's token story of generosity, was worse. His phone buzzed with a text from a number he didn't recognize. Saw you trending. Need help with damage control? A PR firm already mining the situation. He deleted it without responding. Another message came from his mother. You doing okay, baby? Call me if you need to talk. Darius smiled slightly. At least some things remained steady. The next morning, Grant Whitmore walked into the garage alone just after 9. Darius looked up from an engine he was working on, surprised. Mr. Whitmore. Darius. Grant looked around the garage. Busy day? Always something to fix. Grant nodded, running a hand along a vintage fender. I've been thinking about that Expo tune-up. Still stands? Darius understood the real question. Despite the scandal brewing around his daughter and Darius, Grant was asking if their professional relationship remained intact. Yes, sir. Whenever you're ready to bring it in. The two men looked at each other, a moment of understanding passing between them. Grant extended his hand, and Darius shook it firmly. As Grant turned to leave, he paused. We'll be at the next expo, last weekend of the month. Drive well. After he left, Darius sat down heavily on a work stool. The exchange had been brief, but significant. Grant Whitmore had just semi-publicly, maintained their connection. Darius picked up his phone and called Charlotte. It went to voicemail. He hung up without leaving a message, not sure what he would say anyway. A moment later, he sent a text. Your father stopped by. Would you be available to meet? Coffee at Riverview Cafe around noon? Charlotte's response came immediately. Yes, see you there. The Riverview Cafe sat near the waterfront, with outdoor tables overlooking the harbor. Darius arrived first, choosing a quiet table away from the main traffic. He watched Charlotte approach, her steps hesitant, her face drawn with worry. "Thank you for meeting me," she said, sitting down across from him. "Thanks for coming." He signaled a server for coffee. "How are you holding up?" Charlotte looked surprised by the question. "Me? I'm not the one losing business over this." Still, it can't be easy seeing those comments. She shook her head. "I don't care about that. I care about the damage I've caused you." The server brought their coffee. Darius took a sip before speaking. "Your father came to see me this morning." "He did?" Charlotte's eyes widened. "He didn't tell me." "He confirmed our business arrangement still stands. Didn't mention anything else." "That's actually big for him." Charlotte wrapped her hands around her mug. "Darius, I'm so sorry about all of this. The original remark, the video, the photo, the harm that's come to your business." Darius studied her face. No excuses, no self-defense, just genuine remorse and concern for him. It softened something in his chest. "I know you are. I want you to know something." Charlotte met his eyes directly. "I want you, not the image or the story or some kind of redemption narrative, just you." Her directness caught him by surprise. He'd expected polite distance, maybe even a strategic retreat from the situation. Instead, she was being more honest than ever. "That's not what I expected you to say," he admitted. "It's the truth." She took a deep breath. "But I also understand if you need to step back completely. Your business comes first." Darius considered her words carefully. "I've been thinking about this situation a lot. And I've decided that I won't let other people's opinions dictate my choices." He leaned forward slightly. "But we need some ground rules if we're going to try this." Hope flickered across Charlotte's face. "What kind of rules?" "Steady time together, but no secrecy. No big public statements or posts, but no hiding either. No stage making of any kind." "I agree completely. And we take it slow. Get to know each other properly." Charlotte nodded. "Yes to all of that." "It won't be easy," Darius warned. "There will be more comments, more assumptions." "I know, but I think you're worth it." She hesitated. "If you think I am?" Darius reached across the table and took her hand. "I think we should find out." Relief and happiness washed over Charlotte's face. She squeezed his hand, not caring who might see them. "So what now?" she asked. "Now we focus on the next expo. Your father mentioned it, last weekend of the month." Charlotte smiled. "Back to business?" "For now." His thumb traced small circles on her hand. "The rest, we'll figure out as we go." They spent the afternoon planning the next expo appearance. The practical focus helped ease them back into a comfortable rhythm together. When they parted, it was with cautious optimism about what might develop between them. That Saturday, Charlotte arrived at the expo lot just as dawn was breaking. Gulls wheeled overhead, and coffee vendors were setting up their stands. Darius was already there, making final checks on the roadster. "Morning," he greeted her with a small smile. "Sleep okay?" "Not really," she admitted. "Nervous about the parade." "You'll do fine. We practiced enough." Charlotte knelt to check the tire pressures as Darius had taught her. He watched with approval as she moved methodically around the car. "Perfect," he said when she finished. From a short distance away, Grant and Evelyn Whitmore observed their daughter working alongside Darius. They said little to each other, but their presence spoke volumes. They were there, supporting Charlotte in whatever was developing. Grant approached as they finished the preparations. Car looks exceptional. Thank you, sir, Darius said. Charlotte did the final polish herself. Grant nodded at his daughter with quiet pride. Good work. Thanks, Dad. Charlotte checked her watch. Almost time for the driver's parade. As she lined up with the other classic cars, Darius stood by the fender, his palm flat on the warm paint, a gesture that felt like a blessing. Charlotte felt a surge of gratitude for his steady presence, his willingness to give her another chance. The parade began with vintage horns honking and engines rumbling. Charlotte guided the roadster smoothly along the route, waving to spectators. At one slow turn, the engine threatened to stall, but she caught Darius's hand signal from the sideline, adjusted the throttle, and recovered smoothly. The crowd applauded as she completed the circuit, parking by the riverfront lawn. As the applause faded to murmurs and birdsong, Charlotte felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She had done it, faced the public eye without hiding or making a spectacle. Darius approached as she climbed out of the car. Perfect driving. Thanks to your teaching. Charlotte smiled up at him, not caring who might be watching. I couldn't have done it without you. Sure you could have, but I'm glad I was here. Grant and Evelyn joined them, Grant immediately checking the car's condition. Not a scratch. Well done, Charlotte. Darius is an excellent teacher, she said. Perhaps you could show me some basics sometime? Evelyn suggested to Darius, surprising everyone. I've always wanted to understand these beautiful machines better. I'd be happy to, Mrs. Whitmore, Darius replied. Charlotte felt a rush of gratitude toward her mother for this small but significant gesture of acceptance. As other exhibitors and spectators milled around them, Charlotte made a decision. She stepped closer to Darius, took his hand in hers, and kissed him. A calm, respectful kiss that completely reversed her careless words from that first night. No cameras flashed. No one made a scene. It was a moment just for them, witnessed by her parents and a few passers-by who barely noticed. When they separated, Charlotte saw her mother's small smile and her father's slight nod. Not effusive approval, but acceptance, and that was enough for now. That was brave, Darius murmured. It felt right, she replied simply. That evening, Charlotte invited Darius to dinner at the Whitmore townhouse. He arrived promptly at 7, bringing a bottle of wine and a homemade apple pie. My mother's recipe, he explained as Evelyn accepted the pie with genuine delight. The dining room felt formal at first, but as Grant began asking Darius about carburetors and Evelyn inquired about his mother's recipes, the atmosphere warmed. Charlotte watched Darius field her parents' questions with easy confidence, never trying too hard to impress, but simply being himself. By the time they finished the apple pie, which Evelyn declared absolutely wonderful, it felt like any family dinner. When Darius prepared to leave, Grant shook his hand without prompting. You're welcome here any time, Grant said, surprising Charlotte with his directness. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. At the door, Charlotte kissed Darius goodnight, savoring the simple pleasure of doing so without shame or secrecy. That went well, she said softly. Better than I expected, he admitted. Will I see you tomorrow? Darius smiled. I have a car to tune up. Could use an assistant. I'll be there. The next afternoon, Charlotte arrived at Darius's garage with coffee for both of them. He was just finishing an oil change for a regular customer, his movements efficient and practiced. Perfect timing, he said as she handed him a cup. I'm almost done here. They sat on the bench outside after the customer left, enjoying the warm spring day. I've been thinking, Darius said, about taking a road trip next month. Nothing fancy, just coastal highways, good food, no schedule. That sounds wonderful. Would you like to come with me? Charlotte felt a bloom of happiness in her chest. I'd love to. No announcements, no posts, just us and the road. Perfect. They both understood the challenges that lay ahead. More gossip, probably. Some lost clients, maybe. Certainly some raised eyebrows in Charlotte's social circles. But sitting there in the sunshine, planning a simple journey together, none of that seemed insurmountable. We'll take it day by day, Darius said, lacing his fingers with hers. That's all anyone can do, right? He nodded, his eyes warm on hers. One day at a time. Darius turned the key in a customer's car, and the engine hummed to life, smooth and steady. Charlotte squeezed his hand, feeling the same certainty running through her veins. Whatever came next, they would face it, together, with honesty, respect, and the quiet courage to choose each other every day. The gossip would fade, the video clip would be forgotten. But this, his hand in hers, the truth between them, the road ahead, this felt lasting and real. And for Charlotte Whitmore, who had spent so long playing a role that others expected of her, real was exactly what she needed. In Darius Cole, with his steady hands and honest eyes, she had found someone who saw past her family name to the person she truly wanted to be. As the engine's hum filled the garage, Charlotte leaned her head against Darius's shoulder, content in the simple knowledge that tomorrow they would begin again, together. That evening, Charlotte sat on her balcony, sketching the roadster from memory. Her phone pinged with a message from Marina. Saw you two at the expo. He seems worth it. Charlotte smiled and replied, He is. Another text arrived, this one from Darius. Thinking about you. Good night, Charlotte. She hugged the phone to her chest, feeling like a teenager with her first crush. But this was different, deeper, more grounded. This wasn't about rebellion or image or proving anything to anyone. This was about finding someone who challenged her to be better, who saw her clearly, and who chose her anyway. Good night, Darius, she typed back. See you tomorrow. Tomorrow, and all the tomorrows after that. One day at a time, building something real together. Charlotte couldn't wait to begin. The next week brought its own challenges. Charlotte overheard whispers at a foundation meeting, caught stares when she and Darius had lunch at a downtown cafe. But each day also brought new discoveries. Darius's love of jazz music, his habit of reading history books before bed, the way he always called his mother on Sundays. Small things, ordinary things, real things. Does it bother you? Charlotte asked one evening as they walked along the riverfront. The looks, the comments? Darius considered the question seriously. Sometimes, not because I care what they think, but because it reminds me how far we still have to go. As a society, you mean? Yeah. He squeezed her hand. But then I look at us, and I think maybe we're part of that progress. Just by being together. Not making speeches or demands, just living our lives openly. Charlotte nodded, understanding. One day at a time. Exactly. A month after the expo, they took that coastal road trip Darius had suggested. 5 days of winding roads, seaside diners, and small hotels where no one knew their names or their story. Charlotte took photos but posted none. These memories were just for them. On their last night, sitting on a quiet beach watching the sunset, Darius turned to her. I love you, Charlotte Whitmore. The words were simple, direct, just like him. Charlotte felt tears spring to her eyes, happy tears. I love you too. He kissed her as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Charlotte thought about that first night at the gala, the thoughtless words she had spoken, the damage they had caused. And then she thought about all that had grown from that terrible beginning. The apologies, the honesty, the slow building of trust. The choice they made each day to stand together without fanfare. "What are you thinking about?" Darius asked, noticing her expression. "How sometimes the worst moments can lead to the best changes. If I hadn't said those awful words, we might never have met," he finished. "Do you ever regret hearing them? Giving me a chance after that?" Darius shook his head. "No regrets. We can't change how we started, but we get to choose how we continue." Charlotte leaned against his shoulder, watching the first stars appear in the darkening sky. "I choose this. Us. Every day." "Me too," he said softly. On the drive home the next day, Charlotte thought about pride and image and all the ways she had once tried to protect herself from vulnerability. How empty that life had been. How false. Beside her, Darius drove with one hand on the wheel, the other holding hers. This was real, the warm pressure of his fingers, the comfortable silence between them, the road stretching ahead with all its unknown turns and possibilities. One thoughtless sentence had nearly cost her everything. But honesty, courage, and the daily choice to show up for each other had given her more than she had ever imagined possible. Charlotte smiled and squeezed Darius's hand. The road home stretched before them, and she couldn't wait to see where it would lead. 6 months later, Charlotte stood in Darius's garage, carefully polishing the fender of a 1957 Chevy, his grandfather's car. The afternoon sun streamed through the open bay doors, catching the chrome details. "You missed a spot," Darius teased, pointing to a perfectly polished section. Charlotte flicked the polishing cloth at him playfully. "I did not. This car is gleaming." "It is now." He wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. "Grandpa would have loved seeing you work on it." "Tell me about him again." It had become a ritual between them, Charlotte asking about Darius's grandfather, and Darius sharing stories of the man who had taught him everything about cars and character. "He was the most patient man I've ever known," Darius began, his voice warm with memory. "Worked as a postal carrier for 40 years, fixed cars on weekends. Never rushed, never cut corners." Charlotte leaned back against his chest, listening. She loved these glimpses into the heritage that had shaped the man she loved. "He used to say, 'A good mechanic listens to the engine first, then looks second.'" Darius smiled. "Said the same thing about people. Listen first, look second." "Wise man." "He would have liked you," Darius said, turning her to face him. "Seen past all the Whitmore glamour to the real you." Charlotte felt a warmth spread through her chest. "The real me that you helped me find." "Nah." Darius shook his head. "She was always there, just needed space to breathe." Their relationship had deepened steadily over the months, weathering the initial storm of gossip that eventually faded as people found newer, more interesting topics. The video clip had been buried by the relentless churn of social media. Darius had regained the clients he'd lost and gained new ones through word of mouth about his exceptional work. The doorbell chimed, announcing a customer. "That'll be Mrs. Peterson for the Mustang," Darius said, reluctantly releasing Charlotte. "I'll finish up here," she offered. "You handle the handover." As Darius went to greet his client, Charlotte continued polishing, marveling at how comfortable she felt in this space now. The garage that had once been foreign territory had become a second home. She knew where every tool belonged, recognized the distinct sounds of different engines, could even do basic maintenance herself. Her phone buzzed with a message from Marina. "Lunch tomorrow? Need to hear all about the road trip?" Charlotte smiled. They had just returned from their third road trip. this time exploring mountain roads and small towns inland. Each journey together strengthened what they were building, away from prying eyes and expectations. She replied, "Absolutely. Farmer's Market Cafe at noon?" Mrs. Peterson, a silver-haired woman in her 70s, peeked into the workspace as she was leaving. "Charlotte, dear, how are you?" "Wonderful, Mrs. Peterson. How's the Mustang running?" "Like a dream, thanks to your man here." She beamed at Darius. "You two are still coming to our anniversary party next weekend?" "Wouldn't miss it," Charlotte assured her. After Mrs. Peterson left, Darius raised an eyebrow at Charlotte. "Your man?" Charlotte laughed. "Well, aren't you?" "I like the sound of it." He pulled her close for a quick kiss. "Just as much as I like the sound of my woman." "Caveman," she teased, but her eyes shone with happiness. They closed up the garage early, as they often did on Fridays, and walked to their favorite waterfront cafe. The hostess greeted them by name, leading them to their table overlooking the harbor. "I've been thinking," Darius said after they ordered. "The lease on my apartment is up next month." Charlotte nodded, waiting for him to continue. "And you're at my place most nights anyway." Her heart skipped. "Are you asking me to move in with you?" "I'm asking if we should find a new place. Together." His eyes held hers steadily. "Something that's ours from the start." Charlotte reached across the table for his hands. "Yes, absolutely yes." "It won't be as fancy as your place," he cautioned. "I don't need fancy. I need home." She squeezed his hands. "And home is where you are." The smile that spread across Darius's face, the full, unguarded smile that had once been so rare, filled her with joy. They spent the evening online, looking at rental listings, debating neighborhoods and must-have features. Darius wanted garage space. Charlotte wanted a small garden. They agreed on an open kitchen and room for guests. "Should we tell your parents?" Darius asked as they got ready for bed. Charlotte considered this. Her relationship with her parents had evolved over the months. Her father had become an almost regular presence at Darius's garage, bringing in not just his own classics, but referring friends as well. Her mother had made genuine efforts to welcome Darius, even hosting a small dinner party to introduce him to her closest friends. "Sunday dinner," Charlotte decided. "We'll tell them then." Sunday dinner at the Whitmore townhouse had become a weekly tradition. This week, as they gathered around the dining table, Charlotte felt nervous anticipation bubbling inside her. "Mom, Dad," she began after the main course was served. "Darius and I have some news." Grant's fork paused halfway to his mouth. Evelyn's eyes widened slightly. "We're going to move in together," Charlotte continued. "We're looking for a place that will be ours." A moment of silence followed. Charlotte held her breath. Then Grant cleared his throat. "The Riverside District has some interesting properties. Good security, close to the garage." Charlotte exchanged a surprised glance with Darius. This wasn't the reaction she'd expected. Evelyn reached for her wineglass. "There's that lovely converted warehouse building on Harbor Street. Spacious units, I believe." "You're okay with this?" Charlotte asked carefully. Her parents exchanged a look of their own. "Charlotte," Evelyn said gently, "you're 27 years old, and happier than we've seen you in years." "We just want you to be careful," Grant added. "Take your time. Do it right." "We are," Darius assured him. "No rushing into anything." Grant nodded, seemingly satisfied. "Good. Now, about those properties. I know a realtor who specializes in that area." As her father launched into real estate advice, Charlotte felt a wave of gratitude. 6 months ago, she couldn't have imagined this scene. Her parents calmly discussing her moving in with Darius, offering help instead of objections. Later that night, as they drove home, Darius glanced at Charlotte. That went better than expected. Much better. I was prepared for at least some resistance. Your parents have come a long way. We all have. Charlotte gazed out at the city lights. Sometimes I can hardly believe how much has changed since that night at the gala. Darius reached for her hand. For the better. Definitely for the better. 3 weeks later, they signed a lease on a spacious apartment in a converted textile mill. It had high ceilings, exposed brick walls, and most importantly, a 2-car garage space and a small rooftop garden area. It was equidistant between Darius's garage and the foundation offices, perfect for both their needs. Moving day arrived on a crisp fall Saturday. Marina and several friends showed up to help, along with 2 of Darius's cousins and his mother Gloria, a warm, no-nonsense woman who had welcomed Charlotte with open arms from their first meeting. "This kitchen needs color," Gloria declared, unpacking Charlotte's dishes. "Maybe a nice blue on that wall?" "Mom," Darius warned, "we just moved in. Give us time to settle before the renovations start." Gloria winked at Charlotte. "Men never understand the importance of a good color scheme." To everyone's surprise, Grant and Evelyn appeared mid-morning with lunch for the entire crew. Grant immediately began discussing the building's historical features with Darius, while Evelyn quietly placed a housewarming gift on the kitchen counter. A vintage bread box that matched the apartment's industrial aesthetic perfectly. By evening, most of the unpacking was done. After everyone left, Charlotte and Darius collapsed onto their couch. His comfortable leather one, not her formal designer piece, and looked around at their new home. "So," Darius said, pulling her close. "Day 1 of living together officially complete. Any regrets?" Charlotte shook her head, leaning into his embrace. "Not one. You?" "Only that we didn't do this sooner." They settled into a rhythm of shared life that felt both exciting and comfortable. Weekday mornings began with coffee at the kitchen island. Evenings ended with comparing notes on their days. Weekends meant farmers' markets, working on Darius's grandfather's Chevy together, or having friends over for casual dinners. One Sunday, about a month after moving in, Charlotte was sorting through some old boxes when she came across a small framed photo. Herself at about 8 years old, sitting proudly in her father's vintage car. "Look what I found!" she called to Darius, who was preparing lunch. He came to look over her shoulder, smiling at the gap-toothed little girl behind a steering wheel too big for her hands. "Cute. You were into cars even then?" "I loved riding in Dad's classics. He used to let me pretend to drive when we were parked." She traced the frame thoughtfully. "But then I grew up and got busy with being a Whitmore. Galas and appearances and the right schools. I forgot how much I loved simple things." Darius kissed the top of her head. Never too late to remember. The photo found a place on their mantel, alongside pictures of Darius with his grandfather and recent snapshots from their road trips. A visual story of where they'd come from and what they'd found together. 2 weeks before Christmas, Charlotte was finishing up work at the foundation office when Marina burst in, waving her phone. "Have you seen this?" she demanded, thrusting the screen at Charlotte. It was an online society page article about upcoming holiday parties. One paragraph caught Charlotte's eye. "Sources say Charlotte Whitmore will be bringing mechanic boyfriend Darius Cole to the prestigious Whitmore Foundation Christmas Gala, breaking tradition in more ways than one." Charlotte sighed. "Where do they get this stuff?" "So he is coming?" Marina pressed. "Of course he is. He's my partner. But we didn't announce it to anyone." Charlotte handed the phone back. "Does it matter?" Marina studied her friend's face. "It doesn't, does it? The old Charlotte would have been freaking out about the tone of that article." Charlotte shrugged. "The old Charlotte was exhausting to be. This version is much happier." That evening, She showed Darius the article. He read it with a raised eyebrow. Mechanic boyfriend? They could at least say classic car restoration specialist. Charlotte laughed, relieved by his humor. So you're not bothered? By what? That some society writer is scandalized that you're dating a working man? Nah. He set the phone down. Unless you are. Not even a little bit. She wrapped her arms around his waist. But the gala is a big event. Lots of people. Lots of potential comments. Charlotte. Darius tilted her chin up to meet his eyes. We've been doing this for 6 months. We live together. I think we can handle one fancy party. You're right. She smiled. And you'll look incredible in a tux. The night of the gala arrived with a light snowfall that dusted the city like powdered sugar. Charlotte was putting the finishing touches on her makeup when Darius emerged from the bedroom in his tuxedo. Her breath caught. The black tailoring contrasted perfectly with his skin tone, and the classic cut emphasized his broad shoulders and athletic build. Wow, she said simply. Darius tugged at his bow tie self-consciously. Does it look okay? It's been a while since I wore one of these. It looks much better than okay. Charlotte approached to straighten the already perfect tie, just for an excuse to be close to him. You're going to be the most handsome man there. And you, he said, taking in her deep green gown, are definitely the most beautiful woman. They arrived at the museum, the same one where they'd met 6 months earlier, and handed the car keys to the valet. Charlotte felt a flutter of nerves as they approached the entrance. The last time they'd been here together had been so different. As if reading her thoughts, Darius squeezed her hand. New beginning, same place. Poetic, isn't it? She smiled up at him, her nervousness fading. Very. They entered the grand hall, arm in arm. Heads turned, conversations paused briefly, but then resumed. Charlotte led Darius to where her parents were greeting guests. Charlotte, Darius. Evelyn kissed them both on the cheek. Right on time. The quartet is about to start. Grant shook Darius's hand firmly. Good to see you, son. Charlotte tells me you closed that deal on the Ferrari restoration. Just yesterday, Darius confirmed. 6-month project, but worth it. They moved through the gala together, stopping to chat with Foundation board members, donors, and friends. Charlotte noticed with satisfaction how easily Darius handled the conversations, neither trying too hard to fit in, nor holding himself apart. He was simply himself, intelligent, well-spoken, occasionally funny, and people responded to his authenticity. Near the champagne table, they encountered Theo, who had largely kept his distance in recent months. Charlotte, Darius. His smile was tight but polite. Nice tux. Thanks, Darius replied evenly. Enjoying the party? It's the same as always. Theo sipped his drink. Though I hear there are some interesting restoration photos in the East Wing exhibit, might be worth checking out. With that cryptic comment, he moved away. Charlotte frowned. What was that about? Let's find out, Darius suggested. They made their way to the East Wing, where a special exhibit on transportation history had been set up. Among the photos of vintage cars and restoration processes, they found one that made Charlotte gasp softly. It was a candid shot of Darius working on the roadster at the expo with Charlotte beside him, handing him a tool. Both were smiling, completely absorbed in the task and each other. The caption read, Classic Restoration, Car and Perspective. It's a beautiful photo, Charlotte said, studying their expressions captured in that unguarded moment. It is, Darius agreed. But why is it here? The museum curator approached, having spotted them examining the photo. Ah, Ms. Whitmore, Mr. Cole, I was hoping you'd see this. One of our photographers captured it at the expo. We thought it perfectly illustrated our theme of restoration and renewal. It's lovely, Charlotte said, though I'm surprised to see ourselves on display. I hope you don't mind. Your father approved its inclusion. The curator beamed. It's been quite popular with visitors. Something about the focus between you both resonates with people. After the curator moved on, Charlotte turned to Darius. So that's what Theo was hinting at. He thought we'd be upset. Darius studied the photo again. Are you? Upset? Charlotte considered the question, then shook her head. No, it's honest. Real. She looked up at him. Like us. He pulled her close, unconcerned about who might be watching. Exactly like us. Later, as they danced to the string quartet, Charlotte found herself exactly where she had been 6 months earlier, in the same museum hall where she had spoken those careless words that had changed everything. Penny for your thoughts, Darius murmured near her ear. I was just thinking about that night. How one stupid sentence nearly cost me the chance to know you. She looked up into his eyes. And how grateful I am that you gave me the opportunity to show you who I really am. I'm pretty fond of who you really are. His smile was tender. Even if meeting you was less than ideal. Some might call it a terrible start. I call it the beginning of the best thing in my life. Charlotte felt tears prick her eyes. I love you, Darius Cole. I love you too, Charlotte Whitmore. As the music swelled around them, Charlotte rested her head against Darius's chest, feeling his heartbeat steady and strong beneath her cheek. They had weathered judgment and gossip, family hesitations and public scrutiny. They had built something real and lasting, not in grand gestures or public declarations, but in quiet mornings over coffee, in honest conversations, in showing up for each other day after day. What had begun with the worst possible sentence had developed into the most beautiful story Charlotte could imagine. One still being written, one day at a time. Spring came early the following year, bringing fresh growth to their rooftop garden and new opportunities for both of them. Charlotte had taken on a more active role in the Foundation's educational programs, while Darius's business had expanded to include a small apprenticeship program for local youth interested in classic car restoration. On the anniversary of their first meeting, Darius suggested they take the restored Roadster for a drive along the coast. For old time's sake, he said with a smile. They packed a picnic and set out early, the car purring smoothly beneath them. Charlotte drove confidently now, shifting gears with ease as they wound along scenic roads. They stopped at a secluded beach overlook for their picnic, spreading a blanket on the sand. As they ate and talked, Charlotte noticed Darius seemed slightly distracted, his hands occasionally patting his jacket pocket. Everything okay? She asked. Perfect. He took her hand. Just thinking about this past year, how far we've come. It's been quite a journey, she agreed. The best one of my life. Darius took a deep breath. Which is why I was hoping. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Charlotte's breath caught as he opened it to reveal a ring, a vintage-style emerald surrounded by small diamonds. Charlotte Whitmore, will you continue this journey with me, as my wife? Tears filled her eyes as she nodded. Yes, absolutely yes. Darius slipped the ring onto her finger, then pulled her into a kiss that held all the promise of their future together. When they finally broke apart, Charlotte admired the ring sparkling in the sunlight. It's beautiful. Perfect. It was my grandmother's, Darius explained. My grandfather saved for years to buy it for her. Mom kept it for when I found the right person. Charlotte felt honored by the family connection. I love that it has history. Like that Roadster. Darius nodded toward the car. Sometimes old things just need the right care to shine again. And sometimes, Charlotte added. People need to be reminded of what truly matters. They sat together on the beach until sunset, planning their wedding and their future. They would keep it small and meaningful. They would continue building their life together, day by day, choice by choice. As they drove home in the twilight, Charlotte thought about that night at the gala 1 year ago. One thoughtless sentence had nearly cost her everything. But honesty, courage, and the daily choice to see each other clearly had given her more than she had ever dreamed possible. Beside her, Darius drove with one hand on the wheel, the other holding hers, her grandmother's ring catching the last light of day. The road home stretched before them, and Charlotte couldn't wait to travel it together for all the days to come.